Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, I just want to show a little bit of gratitude for hosting us in this wonderful way. So, if you will, I would like to thank you, the organization, and also the technicians, of course, here, and the wonderful translators for their work today. So, if you will, please, a round of applause for their hard work. So my name is Roel Van Den Sigtenhorst. I'm the CEO of Muntpunt Brussels, which is the Dutch-speaking public library over there. Before I go along with the introduction, I think we've had a lot to listen to today. So maybe we start with a little form of landing. So first of all, I would ask everybody, and we're going to do a little exercise. So I will ask the translators to walk along with me in this, and then after we've talked through it once, then we do it all together. So I would like you all to sit up straight in your chairs. And close your eyes. And then, when I say so, we will all take a very deep breath and raise our shoulders when I say so. And then after that, we release the air, and we all go together. Okay? So, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Big breath of air. And we let it go. So, we do another, second time. 1, 2, 3. Big breath. And release. And just one more time to be sure. 1, 2, 3. Big breath. And release. So, thank you. I think we're present now together. So, I'm here today to talk with you, to you, about a question that has been of concern of mine and keeping me busy the last couple of years working in the library sector, which is a strategic question in nature, which is, in a world of unlimited free and public information, what is the key role of the library? What is our role? And I think Mikkel alluded to a lot of the challenges, and of course all the other speakers as well, that we face. And I will try to oppose a thesis in which I think we can find some answers. So, my name is Roel. I'm originally from Holland. I've been living and working in Amsterdam for about 15 years, in the public library for about 6 of those. And the most powerful energy of all, love, brought me to Brussels. This is my wife, Louisa, wife-to-be, I should say, and this is my little boy, Reza, which is now 1 year and 3 months old. And they are the reason I went to Belgium, in Brussels. Used to work in Amsterdam, and Amsterdam is a fascinating place, a beautiful library network, and also a beautiful city of diverse people and really lovely people. So the public library in Amsterdam has about 27 branches, always in development, spread beautifully across the city, and there I got to learn about the possible roles of the library and the way the library and specifically library branches create an incredible network of public spaces where you can interact with society and everyone that's part of Amsterdam. When I worked there, I was, for a part of the time, I was head of programming, and also after that I was focused on strategic partnerships and implementing a way of working and thinking with regard to the library as a platform organization, and that will be the core focus of my talk with you today. And the main question, of course, is why, which we will get to, but first I would like to start with something that Mikkel also touched on, which is the, let's say, the traditional role of the library, and we can call it the library 1.0. Of course, there was an incredible monopoly for the libraries in society. They were the guardians of free public information, and still are, of course, in a way. A key component also is that they were centrally organized, and to put it blunt, there was a linear process. The library curated the information mainly via books, of course, as primary medium, and then presented it and shared it with society. That was, in its core, the library 1.0. And then something happened. Mikkel shared some pictures, of course, but I will do it via a graph. And if I may oblige, I think if there's 2 slides that I would really urge you to look at after this conference and really make them your own and try to digest what is relevant for you and your library. This is one of the 2 slides. I'm not urging you to forget all the rest, but these are really, really important. So this is a graph structured with AI from various data sources that shows the general trends in media consumption. And I think there are some relevant data points to look at here. Of course, there's the start of the internet, which brought along some very strong trends. And on the other side, the flip side of that, there are other mediums which used to be more popular, of course, that are trending downwards. Just to look at a few, one that caught my eye was newspapers. I think we can safely say that with one generation, newspapers in its print form will be a thing of the past. I don't have a lot of trust that they will turn this around. When we look at books, I think there's more nuance to it, of course. So we do see a declining trend. We have to be honest about that. And we also have to be honest about the exceptions, I think, because I think we're here in the Czech Republic, in a country that is incredibly book-minded and book-focused, that has a great amount of respect and love for books, which is amazing. There are other examples as well. So Mikkel is from Denmark, and we see some incredible developments there with regard to the amount of people in society reading books, be it digital, be it print. So there are exceptions, but the general trend is, of course, declining. And then there are the digital developments. So it's pretty clear that the internet, streaming services, social media are all in an incredible pace as well, becoming more and more popular. And then, of course, the one that isn't on the map yet is AI. And I think it's safe to assume that that trend will be even steeper. So once again, it's really up to you what you digest of that and what you make of that for your personal library, but there's, I think, a lot to learn from that. So just to be clear, in my optics, the library 1.0 and the monopoly that it had, it is not there anymore. That doesn't mean there's no essential role for books and the information role for libraries, but specifically the monopoly position is not there. And I think the example that Mikkel gave with regard to the hermit crabs is fascinating. And I would like to build a bit on that. I think the house of the hermit crab, which he has been searching for, of course, after the, let's say, the loss of the monopoly position, I think there are some aspects to it that are relevant to digest. One aspect is it, of course, is the identity aspect of it. So if you've been in a monopoly position for so long, 100+ years, and that monopoly position changes, then your identity changes, and that's a big thing. I think that's traumatic in a way for everyone. So that's relevant to recognize. And within that identity, there is the question of role. What is my role in society or with regard to society? But also, what is my mission? And I think both are really relevant to find again. And I have some thoughts to share on that. With the invention of the internet and broad adaptability in society, I think we are nearing a point where, due to the fast exchange of information, technology and society as a whole is changing more rapidly than we can handle. I'm not sure about you all, but I can feel that on a daily basis. The amount of information that is being shared and the change that comes out of that sharing of information is creating a pace in society that is not made for us humans. And I'm not sure where it will lead us, but I don't think it's fully healthy. But it is there, the pace of change. And that brings along a lot of crisis. And in my opinion, there are mainly three big crises, which all find their essence in that fast pace of sharing of information, which are relevant for us as libraries and which are really relevant for society to tackle. The first is, of course, and I would expect the most obvious, the digital crisis. So the fact that we're hyper-connected, the fact that the inequality in access to information and also what we can do with that information is present. The implementation of AI more recently, fake news, of course, and also the decentralization of media, which in its essence, in its core, is not per se a negative thing, but it seems to have a lot of negative consequences. And then the bigger question, which is both economic and, let's say, spiritual or emotional, does this hyperconnectivity make our lives better? Do we feel better? Do we see the economic value in it? I'm not so sure, to be honest. Second, really connected to the first one as well, is the institutional crisis. So we seem to see a lot of declining trust in our institutions, specifically political institutions, but also other various public institutions. And in all honesty, I think the libraries, they get along pretty well. They're not on top of the list with regard to declining trust. So we still have a lot of goodwill and trust, which is good. We see a lot of civil unrest. Of course, on the institutional side, there are steps towards centralization of power. I think we should be really aware of that, and I think the libraries have an essential role in trying to counter that centralization of power. We see censorship also in the EU, in Britain recently. Personally, I think that's a worrisome road as well. Information should be free and open. And of course, there's the debt crisis, which is worldwide, but also in Europe. And the direct effect of the debt crisis, which is inflation and the way we have to share the money we have. All of this leads to a clear inequality, and with regard to the role of big commercial organizations, there's of course a lot of power on that side as well. And then I thought I'd add the climate crisis, because in its core, I think that's also an institutional crisis. If we want to tackle that one, we really need good functioning institutions. And the third one, for me personally, the most exciting one with regard to our possible role as libraries as well, is, I call this one the spiritual crisis, but you can call it the crisis of well-being. In essence, are we able as a society to make the future for our children better than our futures? Make sure they are healthy, make sure they are living happy lives, make sure they have trust in the days of tomorrow and after that. So the amount of social fabric and good functioning communities we have is possibly declining. And you see this in all kinds of specific data. So the number of divorces, statistics with regard to faith in the future, and all kinds of physical challenges. Birth rates are declining worldwide, specifically in Europe as well. And then also numbers with regard to obesitas and mental illness are worrisome. So I changed the question a bit. In a fastly changing, crisis-filled world of unlimited free and public information, what could be the role of the library? And I think it's essential, if you want to answer that question, to add these aspects. So it's a really fast-changing world, and it's, in all honesty, a bit crisis-filled at the moment. And we can look at this at a strategic level and say, what are we going to do the next 5 years as a library? Which is good. We should definitely do that. But for me personally, I like to focus on the upcoming 100 years and ask ourselves, is it possible to choose a strategy in which we find a new monopoly and a new essential role which can pave the way for the upcoming 100 years in a fast-changing world? Because, of course, we cannot change those factors. We cannot change the fact that information is changing hand so fast. So I truly believe that the library, as I've experienced in both Brussels and Amsterdam, has an incredible and unique position with dealing with these challenges. So, in essence, we have safe, high-quality public spaces, which is essential. We already have diverse audiences. A lot of people joining the library and coming on a daily basis, both young and old, very diverse in backgrounds. And to add to that one, I think also the community of library workers, as we sit here today, is incredibly knowledge and committed. I see those two as two sides of the same coin. The audiences and, of course, we, the people that work in the libraries. We have a trusted brand. There's still a lot of public trust with regard to libraries. And for the most part, we have strong government relationships because these relationships have been there for a long time. And I think both for smaller local libraries and also the bigger metropolitan libraries, there is a form of networks. So we have networks of public spaces that we can share and tackle the challenges together with. Quite essential. So, in my opinion, there is no public organization that is better positioned to take on these challenges, be it local or bigger than that, with regard to society. But we cannot do it alone, of course. So, with regard to the upcoming 100 years, we can look at the question: what is the thing that that makes us unique? And I think that is that we can share, and this is really general, I know, unique experiences with regard to these challenges. So we can share unique experience with regard to reflection and meaning giving. We can create connections and networks. And of course, and that is the one that we're most experienced in already, I think, we can share unique experience with regard to information, knowledge, and skills. And that brings us to a question. If we create the library 2.0, are we going to specialize or are we not going to specialize? And I think if we look at the library 1.0, we can safely say that was a really specialized role and position, which is incredible and okay, because it brought us here. So we've been incredibly relevant in all that time. And just to do a little thought experiment, if we specialize, the library and the librarian, in extension, I would believe, becomes the expert. So they would be the one that develop the content. There could be activities, could be collections, could be experience, but they are the ones developing it. There is a clear focus and there's a deep dive on themes. So we would choose depth over width, I would think, with regard to the topics. This is a possibility, and I think in practice we see this already with regard to specifically reading. And I think there's a paradox in the chart that we've been looking at with regard to reading habits, that the more, or you could say the less people read, the bigger the need for organizations or institutions to reactivate society on reading and reading skills. So I think there's a paradox. The less we read, the more we need people to get help or promoted with reading, albeit for the fact that if we don't read at all, I think it's safe to assume that our critical thinking won't work. So we really won't have a society. That's the basis. So in a way, the trend would invite us to focus on this specialized role. And I think it's really good that there's a lot of libraries that focus on this specialized role. If you want to do that, amazing, go do it. And I think there's also a long time frame in which this will be relevant, so that's wonderful. Specifically with regard to metropolitan libraries, big network libraries and library branches with various locations, I think it's hard to choose this role and also choose other roles for the long term. So I would advise to focus on one role maximum. And that could be this one, could also be another. But there's a risk, and that's the fast-changing, crisis-filled world. So if we develop on the path we're on with all these challenges and all these societal needs, the risk, in my opinion, is that the need for reading, and specifically the medium of books, and the focus on that will become less, and the relationship with specifically governments, but also with the public, will diminish over time, just as the graph shows. So that is a risk. Of course, we have to see over time how that develops, but it's a strategic risk, I would think. The other option is not to specialize and to generalize. And for me personally, I believe that this choice is the one that has the highest possible success rate if we look at it over a period of 100 years, so a long period of time. And I told you there were two slides that I would really urge you to take in and look at again when you get home, and this is the second one. So for me, and it's a bit esoteric, but I really think that this is the core of the idea. The core idea of why a platform organization and a library as a role within a platform organization would work as best is because you can facilitate communities and organizations in the presentation and development of their content. So it's not our content, it's the content of society in many ways. Could be professional organizations, could be communities, could even be individuals. And in essence, we would be working with the creative energy that is already present within those communities. And that on itself is something that will never diminish. Creative energy is something that is always within society, and you can always use it, regardless of the specific challenge that society faces. So there's an endless amount of potential energy we can work with. And there's an endless amount of specialized partners. So specifically, what could this mean? It would make it so that we become the generalist. So we would have to really understand the challenges that society is facing, and instead of becoming the specialist and doing the deep dive and creating all the content ourselves, we become the generalist and we find the experts and the creative energy within society. We would become a network organization and be fully reliant on partnerships, working with communities, partner organizations, and experts. We would facilitate the content, could be activities, could be collections, could be experiences, but we would not make it from A to Z. This would lead to a broad-scoped, well-informed employees, but a clear choice of width with regard to topics over depth. Because as society changes in a fast pace, the strategic risk is that the challenges also change. What are the possible benefits on the long term? So this is really, let's say, management benefits. One is flexibility, of course. If society changes and if these challenges changes, then the library can move along with these changes because we are not focused on one challenge. We haven't organized our entire organization within one of those challenges, but we are flexible to move with these challenges. But we can become excellent at what we do in a new role, in a new hermocrat house, if you will. And I think there's incredible examples, specifically the largest organizations in the world, which in all honesty do a lot of things wrong also and can harm society. But one thing nobody can deny, they are excellent at creating platforms. Facebook, Spotify, Amazon, really doesn't matter. All the biggest organizations in the world, they understand that there's a form of creative energy that they can channel. In the one example, so for instance, Amazon, it's commercial needs. In the other, it's social exchange. And in the other, it's music with regard to Spotify. But we can become excellent in one role. Of course, this also creates the opportunity of inclusiveness, because if we work with a lot of communities and we become excellent of working with these communities, then we can serve a wide range of not only topics, but also communities. There's the possibility of democratization, so giving space to participants. And as we heard today, democracy is under pressure, and this strategy creates a clear possibility to participate in all various shapes and forms with cities and communities. Again, there's also the possibility of scale and efficiency. So when challenging creative energy, you can do that at one location, you can do it at a lot, you can do it once every week, or you can do it every day of the week. And there's also the possibility of creating financial stability by sharing the spaces you have and creating extra income. Most of these aspects are, of course, not new. So, concretely, what can this mean? I've listed some various forms of platform thinking just to get a bit more specific. Of course, there is the possibility of sharing spaces, and for me, this is a wonderful form of really making a clear choice in which kind of challenges or topics, which kind of added value you want to create for society, and by partnering up and sharing your location, you can really focus on that. You can do that via rent construction, so really co-housing, sharing the public space you have with an organization permanently, and also sharing the public space part-time, of course, which I would assume a lot of you already do on a daily basis, maybe once a week, maybe less. And of course then there's the conference role, so not organizing but hosting events and also interacting with society on specific challenges in that way. We can also focus this way of thinking with regard to collections, programming and activities. So facilitating partner organizations in presenting or co-creating, which is also a possibility of course, their activities. And then there's the possibility of curating or co-curating the collections with partner organizations or communities, so collection development. And maybe to add on that, a last one, which I'm not sure if it's already happening a lot in the Czech Republic, but there's the possibility to use the library as an information platform, specifically for types of information that are relevant for society. Not your information, but information for society from other sources. That can both be online and on-site, of course, and I will share some examples of that. So, to build on that, some examples. We start with sharing spaces. My former organization, the OBA, has some nice use cases with regard to sharing spaces. One is a partnership that they organized in the platform, in the flagship location of Amsterdam. A partnership with the local broadcasting station, which are now living within that building, and also organizing all kinds of media labs, co-creating on content, and even organizing, I think it's a monthly, it's a monthly program with regard to culture and literature production by the local broadcasting station. So really a partnership in programming as well. Another example from Amsterdam is, they call it the Verhalenhuis or the Story House, is currently in development, a location which houses the public library, an Arabic cultural center, a youth radio station with also media labs, and an art house cinema with 4 venues. Really just the idea of sharing spaces and adding various forms of value. I'll pick up the pace a bit because it's various examples. This is Birmingham Public Library, which is connected to the Birmingham Repertory Theatre. Interesting example, I think, and they seem to be working together also. Another one a bit close by home for me now, this Ghent, the Krook. They are co-housing with a research center that is connected to the University of Ghent, and they specifically research societal topics and try to engage with society in researching. And then there's Dock 1 in Aarhus, which is a local municipality. And I think this is an interesting combination of both sharing spaces and creating an information platform, because it's also a place where you can find all kinds of relevant information with regard to the municipality and living in Aarhus. So this is Muntpunt, my organization. And we already have various in-house partnerships. We have a DigiPoint, which is a partnership with a local organization that is focused on e-inclusion of kinds of forms of exchange with regard to helping people get along digitally in society. There's Public Libraries 2030, focused on the biggest challenges with regard to funding and lobbying for libraries in the EU. We have Cultuur Connect in-house, focused on digital innovation in the library sector, and we have both the Learning Shop and the Volunteer Shop, which help people find or work, education or volunteering opportunities. And all these organizations either share our back office spaces or our front office. And then we have in Brussels a specific role, which is we call it the info point, but it's a formal assignment given to us by the government to share information which is relevant for society to get along. So there could be urban information with regard to living, how do I find work, how do I find cultural activities, or where can I assign my kid for a new education or school. All kinds of social questions as well, and we really try to focus on vulnerable target groups or groups with specific needs within society. And this is, of course, something we do not do alone. So we organize the front office, but there's an incredible network of, I think, more than 300 partner organizations which share the relevant content with us that we have available there. I realize that these are all examples with large institutions, but I truly believe that this way of thinking, of sharing the creative energy that is already available in society, can also work excellently for smaller library branches and organizations. So, just to make the circle round with regard to the societal challenges, how can we focus platform way of thinking with regard to the biggest societal challenges? For instance, the digital crisis, and I think some of these examples are already present here in the Czech Republic as well. Dedicated digital spaces with partnerships that are specialized in these digital challenges, access to hardware, software, but of course also educational partnerships. To build on that, could be for the digital basic skills, of course, but it can also be for the younger, creative digital natives that want to level up. And then there's public partner programmings for instance, digital topics like AI, privacy, and digital inclusivity, which are all broad, tough topics to specialize in. So I think it could be more efficient if you just find partnerships that are already specialized in these topics and give them the floor and co-create with them. The second one, the institutional crisis. I think there's no better organization than the library to create the public town square 2.0, so to speak. So create partnerships with societal organizations that really work on these topics and aim to connect various groups or pockets of society to talk about the social challenges or the societal challenges that we have and try to work out solutions for them, both locally and also on a broader basis. And of course, we can also implement educational partnerships within this topic. So citizenship and citizen engagement, debating, presentation skills, how do I form a vision on society and present that vision, all aspects that are relevant if we want to work on institutional trust and engagement. And of course, the research possibilities, for instance, the example of Ghent, de Krook. And then finally, there's the spiritual crisis or the crisis of well-being. And I think the library as a third place is an excellent way to tackle this one or work on this one. We already have high-quality safe spaces, but we can work a bit more on what defines a safe space and keep it that way. Of course, we can host research and educational partnerships with regard to well-being, programming, activities, or real specifically integration, reintegration, or job coaching offerings within the library. All possibilities, of course. And I think this one has the most potential to really engage communities and work bottom up on the well-being and the connection between various parts of the society. To summarize, I think if you want to implement this strategy, it's really a way of thinking. It's not one thing, it's just reminding yourself constantly, what can we do with the creative energy that is already present in society? We don't have to be the specialist on everything. We can work together and organize it via a platform strategy. Facilitate communities and organizations in the presentation of their content and work with the creative energy that is already there. Just some smaller advices. You can find local relevance, of course. Look at your communities. What are the needs that are present there? What are the most urgent topics? And really work with those to find resonance immediately. Listen sincerely and really try to look at the question beneath the question. And share responsibility. We don't have to do it all on our own. There's a lot of experts with regard to all these challenges, and we can really do it together. And it's okay to fail. Really experiment and try new things and evaluate and work from there. Also, I think it's important to create a framework, both directionally, so choose which challenges you want to start with and work on as a library or a network, and also operationally, what do we need to work together with partnerships? What are the basics? What is the building blocks for operational collaboration? And last but not least, I wish you all have a lot of fun trying this. Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting me here.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We have got two questions in MNT. The first one, what would happen with libraries as guardians and disseminators of democracy when in classical democracies, the classical democratic states, the regime change from democratic to non-democratic one?
Yeah, that's an incredible question. Thank you. Yeah, so I've been thinking about this. So for instance, with the examples of censorship in the UK, or the example of banning books, of course, which is really concrete and specific, I think that we have the responsibility to choose for society and to work with society and stand for the democratic values. So not the democratic system first, the democratic values first. And that for me is a free flow of information and various thoughts. We need to be able to interact with each other freely in a safe space. We need to be able to talk with each other and be okay with not thinking the same. And for me, primarily, that should be the core focus, and not if we have a democratic system. God forbid we lose the democratic system, but we should really focus on our role in creating that free flow of information.
And especially when the democracy or non-democracy is not 0 and 1, I mean.
Of course, yeah, it's not binary.
Another question, the second question is, can we define libraries' identity or role through the services it provides to the users? See library as a service provider?
Yeah, so in the one example, or the way of thinking, I think if you're the specialist, that is what will happen, and if you're the generalist, that's not what will happen. Then it's partly the facilitating role, the way you interact with communities, and the topics you focus on. But for me, if we look at a scope of 100 years, I believe that the topics will change over time. But that role, that generalist, platform thinking role, that facilitating of the community, that doesn't have to change in a fast-changing society.
There is no more questions here, but I would like to add one myself. You mentioned that the library should be a platform giving space to the positive energy already in the society and community. While it is not always easy to find out if the energy is creative or destructive, I mean, there is a danger that we provide space for energy which later seems to be not so creative, not so positive. So how to prevent such a file? Yeah,
I think on a practical level, house rules or principles can really help. So aiming at always facilitating interaction and the sharing of ideas. So if that is the core principle, the sharing of information or ideas, then even if an idea is destructive, then there should be space to debate the idea and to share other ideas within that safe space. And if that is the core principle, then I think the risk of a dominant destructive energy is limited.
Thank you very much. Since there are no more questions, oh yeah, there is.
Dear, thank you very much for your inspiring and brilliant presentation. I am Thomas Fultin, I'm the Director General of the National Library of Czech Republic, and I would like to say a few words to the question number 1 and for the question which was raised by Thomas now. You are talking a lot about, how to say, in-house strategic planning, but it's only, how to say, first part of the planning procedure. The second part is the, how to say, out of the house planning made by politicians, decision makers, etc. And you know, it's always an easy business to persuade them that it's good to waste the money, the budget for the culture heritage institution, education institution, including libraries. And my question is, in this world which is full of the changes, full of the movements to the radical political parties, how to talk with your decision makers to support the library movement?
Yeah. So the easier answer is I look at Mikkel and I say, that's your job, please help us. But of course that's only on the European level. But I think we see on a European level that the changes are coming. So there is a growing awareness that libraries have an essential role in tackling these challenges, specifically the democratic ones, but also broader challenges. So there's already change on the way. Bottom up, locally, I think it really varies from place to place, in all honesty. And we have the luck in Brussels that we have incredible partners within the government that understand that we have a role in this. But it helps that on a European level or on a national level, that the awareness is already there, and there is the beginning of a, let's say, a policy structure in which libraries are have confirmed that they have this role. That really, really helps. That's why I'm really thankful for the work of the OMC group, which are starting to create these building blocks. In all honesty, I think on the local level, if you do not have representatives of the government that understand it yet, then it's a process of talking to each other and focusing on the urgent needs of the societal challenges. So if the need is there, then it's hard to say no to a role for libraries if they offer such a unique proposition. And that takes some lobbying, but I truly believe that that should be our core focus.
Thank you. We have already run out of time, but I do not want to prohibit anybody to ask a question if they need so. But there are no more questions, so once more, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for being with us.